Hello friends, a very warm welcome to the next session in the environmental series. Now the question again arises, how tough is the civil services examination? Is it only merely about facts? Or is it merely about lot of information? Or is it about your internal strength? Or is it about really understanding and appreciating what is happening in our environment as far as environmental series is concerned? I would say collection of all these facts is important. And that is what we have been trying to do in the series. So make your own notes, try to correlate with all facts, get back for doubts, do as I am instructing all of you as and when we are speaking, and in our personal interactions we are trying to solve all the relevant issues, and let's try to finish terrestrial ecosystem in a smart way. Only about a quarter of Earth's surface is dry land. Remember this for prelims. Yet the complexity and variegation of terrestrial ecosystems are much greater than that of aquatic ecosystem we have just discussed in the previous lecture. So there is no unifying theme in terrestrial ecosystem analogous to the physical properties of water. We have discussed both fresh water and salty water. Rather, the variety of climates, the diversity of all lithosphere and heterogeneity of terrestrial biotic communities, they all conspire to give rise to variety of themes. They all are woven together in nature to give an enormous diversity of biotic communities and terrestrial ecosystems. So one fact for prelims already I have made you very clear. The physico-chemical nature of terrestrial ecosystems and their comparison with aquatic ecosystem is very important for the prelims and also for writing mains. Aquatic system is essentially a single phase system. Water sets the tone for the entire habitat. A terrestrial ecosystem is a three phase system. Okay, remember this, where the characteristics of habitat are a function of the atmosphere and climate, the soil, and third is the biotic community itself. So atmosphere is source of oxygen for animals and carbon dioxide for plants. Both are sufficiently common and well mixed in the atmosphere, and they are essentially never limiting. Air is a medium of support, but it's much less beyond than water. Very important fact. Okay, air is a medium of support, but much less beyond than water. Therefore, an organism needs relatively little support to survive in water, but it needs fairly rigid skeleton. Okay, rigid skeleton to live on land and to move on land. So climate in terrestrial ecosystem is much more variable than it is in the water. We have just discussed that. The most important aspects of climate are the temperature. Think about yourself. What is happening in summers? What is happening in winters? What is happening in spring? You are going to the plains. You are going to the mountains. You are going to even beaches. And water relations of ecosystem are different. So these relations include the mean annual temperature, amount of temperature fluctuation, annual rainfall, degree and time of fluctuation in rainfall, and potential evapotranspiration are very important impacting the terrestrial ecosystem. Rainfall tends to be somewhat irregular even in most of the predictable terrestrial ecosystems, whether these are the hotspots of, you can say, Himalayas, or whether we speak about Meghalaya, whether we speak about even Andaman Nicobar. In arid regions, or during the periods of drought, the lack of water may be a source of extreme stress. Think about the deserts, think about Sahara, think about Kalahari, and even in India, think about even the deserts in Rajasthan and Gujarat. Thar desert I'm speaking about, but not just that. Even if you speak about Kutch, if you speak about the arid zone, if you speak about the increasing desertification, then you will understand the gravity. The temperature is much more variable on land than in water. Very true. Think about the temperature, or you can say the climate difference between Mumbai and Delhi. So this is caused by the fact that aquatic ecosystems are heated by absorption of radiation by water. Water has a high specific heat, we have already discussed this, whereas terrestrial ecosystem on the other hand are heated by the absorption of heat by soil, rock and vegetation, where the specific heat is much lower. Think about Aravallis. Think about the travel between Delhi and Mumbai through road. So a given quantity of heat is absorbed by the solid material can change its temperature to 2 to 5 times as much as the same energy is absorbed by water. This is the whole crux. How water and heat surface, how water and surface on land are different. Therefore, the heat is gained and lost rapidly by terrestrial ecosystems, with a resulting in wide fluctuation of temperature both diurnally and seasonally. So you see here, very important. Remember this chart, try to recall it, try to write it, and then revise it. Water has a high specific heat capacity, which means it takes a lot of heat to raise its temperature. This property is due to the hydrogen bonds between water molecules, an important basic fact for prelims. In terrestrial ecosystem, the soil serves two major functions. It provides support for living organisms. It is the source for all essential nutrients except carbon, oxygen and hydrogen. Similarly, because the entire weight of all living beings is borne by the soil, there is no partition support between the soil and air. The role of soil as a source of nutrients is very unique to terrestrial environments. Classification of terrestrial environment involves the Earth's surface. The continental landmass has been classified by biogeographers and ecologists into biogeographic realms and biomes. So biogeographic realms or the regions, careful study showcases that plants and animals distribution over the earth have revealed the existence of six major biogeographical realms. That is Palearctic realm, Near Arctic realm, Neotropical realm, Ethiopian realm, Oriental realm, Australian realm. All these realms are very important and each is characterized by the presence of certain unique organisms. Each of these realms embraces major continental landmass and each remains separated by mountains, oceans, ranges or desert. So very important, you must remember these names very carefully. Try to draw on a paper like a figurative or a graphic diagram and then try to name it. Let's see biomes. Within these biogeographic realms, established by a complex intersection of climate and other physical factors and biotic factors, there are large community units which are called biomes. So biomes are within biogeographic realms and there is a complex interaction going on. We have already discussed what community is and population also. So what is a biome? Biome is a large community unit characterized by the kinds of plants and animals present. What is the kind? What is the kind present over there? In each biome, in each biome, the kind of climax vegetation is uniform. Grasses, conifers, deciduous trees. But the particular species of plant may vary in different parts of biome. So please understand. The kind of climax vegetation depends on the physical environment. We are using the word climax. We are trying to say it is the one which is characterizing. It is the one which is uniform. There may be other species of plant, but there is a certain uniformity. So the vegetation depending upon physical environment and the climax vegetation, it is determining the kind of animals present. The definition of biome includes not only the actual climax community of a region but also several intermediate communities also that is preceding the climax community. There is usually no sharp line of demarcation between the two adjacent biomes. Instead, each blends with the next through a fairly broad transition region which is known as ecotone. We have already discussed that. That is why in UPSC examination the questions have been coming on what is there in the Western Ghats. Go to Google Earth app and then try to see Silent Valley Park, or you try to see interiors of Western Ghats from Konkan till the down south, and then similarly on the eastern side you try to see Coromandel coast, and you will find that they both are merging in between. That is why UPSC is asking questions. So there is, for example, an extensive region in northern Canada where the tundra and coniferous forest blend in tundra coniferous ecotone. Similarly, is true for India also. Ecologists have identified the following biomes. Tundra biome, presenting the most common example of fragile ecosystem. Tundra, which means marshy plain, lies largely in the north latitude 600 north, and you have Arctic Ocean and polar ice caps and the forests to the south. And it is characterized by absence of trees, presence of dwarf plants, and an upper ground surface that is wet, spongy, and uneven, or hummocky, resulting, freezing and thawing of this poorly drained land. So Clapham and Cormondi, they are actually putting these ideas. There is a variation from place to place within the biome. Temperature, precipitation, and evaporation are characteristically low, and the warmest months average below 10 degrees centigrade, and the wettest with about 25 mm of precipitation. Despite the small amount of precipitation, water is usually not the limiting factor because the rate of evaporation is also very low. So the ground usually remains frozen except for the uppermost 10 to 20 centimeter which thaw during the brief summer season. So you see the kind of characteristics tundra biome is showcasing. The permanently frozen deeper layer is called permafrost. Must have read it in geography. The permafrost line, which may exist at a depth of few centimeters to several meters, is the ultimate limit of a plant root growth. Very, very important for prelims. But the immediate control is the depth to which the soil is thawed in summer. So a thin carpet of vegetation of tundra biome. It is including some species, for example, grasses, sledges. They are the characteristics of numerous marshes and poorly drained areas, but large areas consist of grasses, sedges, mosses, lichens with occasional occurrence of dwarf birches and willows. So these are the key words. Perhaps the most characteristic tundra plant, or I can say Arctic tundra plant, is the lichen known as reindeer moss, which is very, very important for the prelims. Reindeer moss tundra is also characterized by heath plants such as erica and other members of Ericaceae family. The net primary productivity is also extremely low. Similarly, the animals that have adopted to survive in the tundra are caribou or reindeer, musk ox, the Arctic hare, Arctic fox, polar bear, wolves, lemmings, snowy owls, and ptarmigans during the summer, and swarms of flies like dipteran black flies, mosquitoes, and host of migratory birds. Tundra biomes covers a large area of Arctic zone. There are two tundra biomes, one in Palearctic, other in the near Arctic, as I just discussed with you in the beginning. So, tundra-like areas are called alpine tundra and are also quite similar to Arctic tundra. Therefore, absence of permafrost and in the growing seasons, mosses and lichens are also less prominent, and flowering plants are also there, but not in a large number. So this is a very important graphical depiction. Take a deep breath, look at them very carefully and try to see what you can recall. Because in examination, yellow-eyed penguin, because penguin we speak about always with Antarctica, or even we have the Antarctic prion, red fox, and so forth. So please try to see and try to relate. It is another example over here. That is what we have just discussed. The tundra region. See, this is tundra over here, and that is how you are going till here, and also over here. High altitude or the alpine biome is the next example. It is also very, very important. The region of mountain above the timberline contains a distinct flora and fauna, and it is referred to as alpine zone. Alpine zone remains conspicuous in those mountains whose peaks reach up to the naval or snow zone, as in the Himalayas. The alpine zone, the zone which lies between the timberline and the snow zone, includes in the descending order a sub-snow zone immediately below the snow zone, a meadow zone in the center, and a shrub zone which is gradually merging into timber zone. So according to Mani, snow zone of Himalayas lies over 5,100 meters above the mean sea level, and alpine zone exists at the height of 3,600 meters. So from an ecological point of view, the zone above the limits of tree growth, that is timber line, it is exhibiting extreme environmental conditions, which greatly influences biota of this region. So the characteristic features of high altitude environment are following: a low air density, low oxygen and carbon dioxide contents and water vapor, high ozone content, high atmospheric transparency affording greater penetration of light, and you can also correlate albedo effect with this, cold snow cover, increased rate of desiccation, and then high wind velocity, insolation of high intensity during the day, and rapid radiation during the night. And along with that, we can say the high glare from the sky and snow, high intensity of ionizing radiation, and exclusion of trees is also one of the factors. So you now see, when we speak about climate change, when we speak about what is happening in Himalayas, and it is very much true that examination body is going to ask you whether you have the understanding of the high altitude characteristics or not, and that is how the question will be framed. In the western Himalayas of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and UP or Uttarakhand we can say, and the eastern Himalayas of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh, subalpine forests dominated by trees of such species such as Abies, Pinus and so on occurs at the altitude of 2,900 to 3,500 meters, while alpine scrub forests are found at the altitude of 36,000 meters and more. These scrub forests contain the broad-leaved Betula utilis. Alpine zone of the Himalayas is also characterized by sparseness of animal groups. That means very little groups. The scarcity being relatively important as far as tropical Indian, South Chinese, Indo-Chinese and Malayan derivatives are concerned. We always get questions. That is why from these areas, important constituents of fauna of the zone are cold adapted Palearctic forms. That is what Mani sir also said in 1968. Similarly, many invertebrates of alpine zone are predatory and occur in lakes, streams and ponds like the way we have seen in case of water ecosystems. Among the vertebrates, fishes and amphibians are totally lacking. Reptilians fauna is greatly impoverished. However, paleobitid frog Aleurophine mamata is found to occur at 4,500 meters of heights in Himalayas. Viviporus mabuya varia has also been reported to live at 4,000 meters at height in Mount Kilimanjaro. Some of the representative vertebrates of Himalayan alpine zone are crow, Corvax corax, snow partridge, Larva nivicola, snow leopard. We have also spoken about how there is a mission for snow leopard is there is a whole dedicated program, and that is why question comes up. European leech marten, Moistella foina, and Tibetan yak, Tibetan sheep, Pamir sheep, Capra falconeri, Persian wild goat, and Capra aegigres. So these are some of the examples. You need not to remember all the scientific names. I'm just giving you for understanding. You just need to know the common names as far as understanding of the biome is concerned. Let's go for forest biome. The word forest derived from the Latin word foris means outside, the reference being the village boundary fence. And it must have included all uncultivated, all uninhabited land. Today, forest is any land managed by the diverse purpose of forestry, whether covered with trees, shrubs, and climbers. So, the forest biomes include a complex assemblage of different kinds of biotic communities, optimum conditions of temperature, ground moisture responsible for the growth of trees. It is contributing greatly to the establishment of forest communities. I am giving a very general introduction. You must have read in current affairs. We have discussed also in different kind of our interactions. The nature of soil, wind and air currents determine the distribution. This is very important. The last line is very important. Revisit it and understand how it is being impacted. We have discussed about tundra. We have discussed about the Himalayas. You can just Google and find a couple of more ideas. Normally, ecologists recognize among the forest communities such features as their evergreen nature, whether deciduous or indeciduous, as well as their shape, whether broad-leaved as in temperate, very important for prelims, or the needle-like in the case of conifers. So broad leaves in temperate, needle-like in conifers, and on the basis of these features, forest biomes of the world have been classified into coniferous forest, tropical forest, temperate forest. All these forest biomes are generally arranged on a gradient, okay, from north to south, that is from high altitude to the lower altitude. Boreal coniferous forest. In Hindi, it is called Shankudhari 1. Cold regions with high rainfall, strongly seasonal climates with long winters and fairly short summers are characterized by boreal coniferous forest, which is transcontinental. For example, adjacent to the tundra region, either at latitude or high altitude, is the northern coniferous forest. That means just below tundra, which is stretches across North America, Eurasia, just south of tundra, Canada, Sweden, Finland, Siberia, and even Missouri. The term taiga applied to the northern range of coniferous forest. This is characterized by evergreen plant species such as spruce, fir, pine trees, and by animals such as snowshoe hare, lynx, fox, bears, red fox, porcupine, squirrels, amphibians, and like hyla and rana. So what you need to do, you need to just Google, need to identify what is in the case of India, how and where this is found, and also what kind of animal and plant species you can just correlate. Similarly, the boreal forest soils are thin podozols because they are poor because of weathering of rock proceeds, and weathering is taking place slowly in these cold environments, and the litter derived from conifer needle is broken down very slowly, and it is not particularly rich in nutrients. Soils are acidic and mineral deficient, the result of the movement of a large amount of water through the soil, and in the absence of significant counter upward movement of evaporation, soluble essential nutrients such as calcium, nitrogen and potassium are leached sometime beyond the roots, thereby leaving no alkaline oriented cations to encounter the organic acids of the accumulating litter. Prakriti ka niyam. It is happening. And even human intervention is going to be there, then problem is going to be compounding. So the productivity and the community stability of boreal coniferous forest are lower than those of any other biome. Very, very important and crucial lesson. That is why you need to see what Indian forest policy and Indian Forest Service and even the forest management committees, and also how environmental protection act is being applied whenever we seek and whenever different kind of forest we speak about. So taiga or boreal forest, see here, boreal forest or taiga is a cold subarctic coniferous forest. Spruce, fine, fir, moss, lichens and mushrooms as I just said. And then fauna, you have animal includes, all these animals are there. Just try to see what is the status. UPSC is interested in status, I, IUCN status, and even you have to see what is the role in the Red Book and also wildlife schedules of India. Temperate deciduous forest, which is also called Shitoshna Parnapati 1. The temperate forest biomes are characterized by a moderate climate and broad-leaved deciduous trees, which shed their leaves in fall and bear over winter and grow new foliage in spring. We have not spoken about the falling of leaves till now. Now, this is the first time we are speaking that in the temperate deciduous forest, this happens in season manner. These forests are the characteristics of North America, Europe, East Asia, Chile, and part of Australia and Japan, with a cold winter and an annual rainfall of 75 to 150 centimeter and a temperature of 10 to 20 degrees centigrade. In these biomes, the precipitation may be fairly uniform throughout the year. In Himalayas occur temperate vegetation, including pins, fir, yew, and juniper trees, with an undergrowth of scrubby rhododendrons. Very important keyword you have to see for the prelims. Soil of temperate forest are podozoic, fairly deep. Trees are quite tall, about 40 to 50 meter in height, and their leaves are thin and broad. The predominant genre of this biome are maple, beech, oak, hickory, basswood, chestnut, cottonwood, sycamore, elm, and willow. Very important. Just you have to build upon this a little bit more, and we are providing you all important concepts which are required. Similarly, there are not many epiphytes. We have already discussed what epiphytes and lianas, epiphytes concept. If you go and revisit our previous lectures, I have explained it very clear manner what epiphytes are. Are lianas say for some species of mosses, algae and lichens growing on tree trunks and a few vines, notably vitis, the grape. The understory of shrubs and herbs in the deciduous forest typically well developed, richly diversified, with considerable portion of photosynthesis and flowering attune to the short day of the spring season prior to the leafing out and consequent shading by the tree canopy. Now, let's see temperate evergreen woodland. छपराल जिसको शीतोष्ण सदाबहार वन भूमि भी कहा जाता है. Many parts of the world have Mediterranean type of climate. Very favorite of UPSC. Very favorite Mediterranean type of climate. Doesn't mean it is only going to be in a Mediterranean region. Please, Mediterranean type climate with warm, dry summers, cool and moist winters. These are commonly inhabited by low evergreen trees with small hard needles or slightly broader leaves. Most important area of tropical evergreen woodland in North America is chaparral of the Pacific East, the Mediterranean maquis, Spanish Inchinar, Mallis crab of Australia's south coast are of the same type of community. In such a woodland, trees are essentially lacking, although shrubs may range up to 3 to 4 meter in height. Very important. Species diversity is roughly intermediate between that of temperate deciduous forest and drier grassland. See, try to understand that how species are there between that of temperate deciduous and drier grassland. So fire, UPSC have already asked question couple of times. Every year question comes up from one region or the another region and they will be trying to understand the concepts. Fire is an important factor in this ecosystem and the adaptation of the plants enable them to regenerate quickly after being burned. The characteristic animals of temperate evergreen woodland or chaparral are mule deer, bush rabbits, I should say, wood rats, chipmunks, lizards, wimtits, and brown towhees. Small hooved cursorial ungulates are dominant herbivores. Okay, do check out this term. And saltatorial, that is jumping animals, and many fast moving ungulates are also common in this fauna. Very important. Similarly, let's see temperate rainforest or Shitoshna Varshopan. Shitoshna Varshapan will be having the temperate rainforest features. That is a colder ecosystem than any other rainforest. That means this is a rainforest type which is colder than others. Such a forest has definite seasonality, Both temperatures and rainfall varying throughout the year. Rainfall is high, but the fog may be very heavy and actually more important as a source of water than rainfall. See how beautifully temperate rainforests are adapting themselves. The diversity is much lower. Plants and animals in comparison to warmer rainforest, what we can say diversity is little bit lower than the other kind of rainforest, yet it remains still higher than other temperate forest types. Okay, when you compare between temperate forest types and the warmer rainforest, it is somewhere in between. The diversity is much lower in comparison to warmer rainforest, as I just said. It yet it remains still higher in other temperate forest types. The dominant tree canopy is coast redwood, that is Sequoia sempervirens of Pacific coast of North America, alpine ash, that is Eucalyptus regnans of Australia and Tasmania, both of which reach more than 100 meters in heights. Epiphytes and lianas are common but are not abundant like those of other rainforest. Animals of temperate rainforests are similar to those of deciduous forest, but they show somewhat higher diversity. Tropical rainforest, Ushna-Katibandhiya Varshavan. Tropical rainforest occur near equators in the Central and South America, Central and Western Africa. Please do remember Congo, Zambezi River, Southeast Asia, parts of India and Malaysia, Malaya, Borneo, New Guinea and Northwest Australia. Tropical rainforests are among the most diverse communities on earth. Okay, most diverse. Both temperature and humidity are high and constant. Annual rainfall, which exceeds to 200 to 225 centimeters, is generally evenly distributed throughout the year. So I have a task for you. Go for all these types of forests. Go for Indian areas. Go for Indian species and try to see what kind of tribes and what kind of rivers are there. This is a very, very important assignment for you so that you can quickly remember all those facts once you understand the concepts from here. The flora is highly diversified. The extremely dense vegetation of tropical rainforests remain vertically stratified with tall trees, often covered with vines, creepers, lianas, epiphytic orchids, and bromeliads. Under the tall trees is a continuous evergreen carpet, the canopy layer of some 20 to 25 to 35 meters tall. So the lowest layer is an understory of trees, shrubs, herbs like ferns and palms, all of which becomes very dense when there is a break in canopy. Nearly all plants are evergreen, and those who do lose their leaves entirely as irregular intervals with no apparent regard to the climate regime. So the leaves of most plants are of moderate size, leathery and dark green in color. The roots are often shallow and have swollen bases or flying buttresses. Soil are red latosols. They may be exceedingly thick, I should say. The high rate of leaching makes these soils virtually useless for agriculture purposes. But if they are left undisturbed, an extremely rapid cycling of nutrients within the little layers, that is due to decomposition, takes place, can compensate for natural poverty of the soil. So that means nature has its own way of healing. It must be left undisturbed. It is the nature of the soil, both its potential for high leaching as well as its chemical composition that promotes rock-like quality when exposed to air, that largely has prevented Western style agriculture from being applied to tropical forest, that was said by Commondi in 1976. I have already explained you this very important concept because UPSC is going to ask you why it is not possible in tropical forest, and it will give you some probable causes. Invertebrate density and abundance are very high in the tropical rainforest, but while vertebrates are diverse, they are not as abundant as many other communities. The common invertebrates of these forests are worms, snails, millipedes, centipedes, scorpions, isopods, spiders, insects, planarians, and leeches. Among insects like heteropetrans, orthopetrans, blattids, mantids, phasmids, bees, termites, and ants are also most common. Further in the foothills of forest zone of peninsular India, very important, covered with dense tropical vegetation, we have tiger, Panthera tigris, elephant, Elephas maximus, sambar deer, that is Rusa unicolor, mundzak, and the guar, or you can say gaur, the cheetal or the spotted deer and the swamp deer. Tell me a single question which have not come up from here in the last 1 decade in the prelims examination. They have asked you about tiger, they have asked you about even deers, they have asked you about even the major ground dwelling mammals. So Anantakrishnan sir and the Vishwanathan sir, they had done a wonderful job to make us understand. Tropical seasonal forest, that is Ushna Katibandhiya Mausami 1. Tropical seasonal forest occur in the region where total annual rainfall is very high. But the segregation is into pronounced wet and dry periods. Tropical seasonal forests are found in Southeast Asia, Central and South America, Northern Australia, Western Africa. Do try to visualize the map. Do try to open your atlas side by side. Do stop the lecture in between and then go back to refresh your memory. Don't rush, nothing comes easily. The tropical islands of the Pacific as well as India and Southeast Asia in exceedingly wet tropical seasonal forests. They are known as monsoon forests. The annual precipitation may be several times higher than that of tropical rainforest. Very, very important. Trees may reach heights over 40 meters but are more commonly between 20 to 30 meters. Stratification is of relatively simple type with a single understory tree layer. Canopy is deciduous and the understory is evergreen. Teak is a major tree, large tree, best known for tropical seasonal forests, those of India and Southeast Asia. Bamboo is an important climax shrub. Okay, the key word is climax shrub in these areas, although in other areas it is important only in the earlier stages of the succession. Let's see subtropical rainforest, that is Uposhna Katibandhiya Varshavan, in regions of fairly high rainfall but where temperature differences between winter and summer are less marked, as in Florida, the broad-leaved evergreen subtropical biome is found. Remember in the beginning we spoke about that how there is a biome, but the biomes are divided, classified. The vegetation includes mahogany, gumbo limbo, bays, palms, oaks, magnolis or magnolias, we can say tamarinds. Questions have already been asked on these lines also. All laden with epiphytes of pineapple and orchid families, ferns, vines and strangler fig, that is Ficus aureus. This stratification is simpler with only one understory tree horizon. All these plants tend to be evergreen but may lose their leaves during the dry season. Animal life of subtropical forest is very similar to that of tropical rainforest. Rainforest in India, if we specially focus upon, the patches of rainforest are found in Kerala, Assam and Gandhamardan hills of Odisha. They are of the following three types. Moist tropical forest, that is Adra Ushna Katibandhiya 1. They include southern tropical wet evergreen forest, also known as Dakshini Ushna Katibandhiya Adra Sahada Bahar 1, found in Assam and West Bengal, and northern semi-evergreen forest, that is Uttari Ardha Sadabahar 1 of Assam and Odisha, and the southern tropical semi-evergreen forest, that is Dakshini Ushna Katibandhiya Ardha Sadabahar 1 of Andamans. So moist tropical forest, they are actually divided. Montane subtropical forest, that is Parvatiya Uposhna Katibandhiya 1, they include the northern subtropical, that is Uttari Uposhna Katibandhiya, broad-leaved wet hill forests of Assam and West Bengal. The southern subtropical, that is also known as Dakshin Uposhna Katibandhiya broad-leaved hill forest of Odisha and Kerala, and the subtropical pine forest, that is Uposhna Katibandhiya Devdar of UP, Himachal, Assam and Manipur. The cheer forest of UP and HP are also example of these type of forest. Very, very important for the prelims examination, and even in the mains examination you may have to draw an Indian map, and in India's map you may have to show not only moist tropical forest or even montane tropical forests. Montane wet temperate forest, when we speak about, that is known as Parvatiya Adra Shitoshna 1, they include forest of Kodaikanal and Udagamandalam in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. The northern wet temperate forest, that is Uttari Adra Shitoshna 1 of the northeastern region and West Bengal, and the Himalayan moist temperate forest, Nam Shitoshna 1. So very important that the montane wet temperate forests are in the Kodaikanal and Udagamandalam of Tamil Nadu and the parts of Kerala. And tropical savanna biome, when we say Ushna Katibandhiya savanna biome, are the tropical grassland with scattered drought resistant trees which generally do not exceed over 10 meters in height and do not form a canopy. Thus a savanna is an intermediate between a forest and a grassland. Remember, very, very important for the prelims examination. And savannas constitute extensive areas in eastern Africa which support the richest diversity of grazing mammals in the world. Think about those zebras, think about those beautiful पेनोरमिक व्यूज जब आप सोनी टीवी या सैमसंग की टीवी खरीदने की बात करते हैं, या whenever you see the 4K or whenever you see the highest visualization in terms of pixels, then only these forests and national parks are shown. They also occur in Australia, South America and Asia. And I may also link Mufasa's story with that of tropical savanna biomes. So the climate is generally characterized by rainy, that is May through October, and dry November through April season. In the Illinois of Venezuela, for example, 90% of the annual rainfall of 130 centimeters fall during the rainy season. The littoral soils of savanna are nutrient poor owing to heavy leaching because of the rain. Quite widely distributed in savanna are soil called laterite, which when dried harden to rock-like consistency, thereby precluding their use in Western style agriculture, as said by Cormendi. Although climate and soil are significant regulating factors in this biome, the controlling factor appears to be again fire, which gives grass and certain species of a tree a powerful advantage over other tree species. As a result of this factor, species diversity is quite low in comparison to adjacent tropical forests. In some situations, a single species of both grass and tree may be dominant over a large area, or you can say it is a kind of understanding which it is showing, so that you can see that how things are moving on. Now, moving forward, savannas of India. The savannas of India are dominated by grasses and salt trees, and the consumers are cattle, rodents, insects, jackals, and hyenas. They are classified into high savanna, occurring in Brahmaputra Valley and constituting open stands of low branching trees, which are usually only 2 to 3 meter tall, such as Syzygium, Serra, Sodium, and Embelica officinalis. Its common grasses are Imperita, Shasharam spontaneum, and Ophrys and Vetiveria. So we are not going to get the names, these names obviously, and we are just going to understand that what is the type of vegetation, what is the type of flora and fauna in high savanna areas. Similarly, moist salt savanna, it occurs in the Gangetic Plains and consists of open forests of sal, that is Shoria robusta, very common word. Having tall grasses, its common grasses are Imperita, Cylindrica, Thymidia, Arundinacea, and Cambobogon, Naldus, Eranthus, and Apluta. So you have to understand that there are differences even within savannas in India. Low alluvial savanna woodlands, Gangetic Plain, riverine flats, and sandy and alluvial contain patches of clay depressions. The common tree is Dalbergia. You must have heard this word. Butea monosperma, Albizia, Edina cordifolia, and Ziziphus procerum, Arundellina, and Thymida gigantea. So you don't need to remember all the names again I am suggesting, but then you have to know that low alluvial savanna woodlands are where? Dry savanna, Punjab, Haryana, Bihar, Orissa, eastern Tamil Nadu, characterized by trees which stand apart, far apart, singly or in small groups such as Acacia lenticularis, Embelica officinalis, Gardenia turgida, and Cortularia hilta. So the idea is to understand that what kind of species are there, and Petrocarpus marsupium is very important. The common and abundant grasses of this region are again Triandra and Mutica and Setosa. So saline alkaline scruba savanna, it occurs throughout the Indo-Gangetic plain. You need to remember, make an India map and try to you pan out and you just write down all the savanna areas on the map and you can submit it to me. The common tree of this region are Phoenix sylvestris, Acacia, Tamarisk, and Clatropis procera and Cochia indica. Now let's talk about grassland biomes. So grassland biomes found where the rainfall is about 25 to 75 centimeters per year, not enough to support a forest, yet more than a true desert. So the seasonality of grass is pronounced both with respect to rainfall and which is concentrated in summers and to temperature. So that is why this grassland typically occurs in the interior of continents. Tall grass prairies, short grass prairies, or great plains, or arid grassland of North America as well as steppes of Eurasia, that is southern Russia, Siberia, and Asia. This is grassland biome. So the Putza of Hungary, the wild of Africa, and the pampas of South America, that is Argentina, are also part of it. The grassland communities are open land communities, limited moisture conditions, irregular rainfall, sharp seasonal and diurnal vegetation, and very high radiation. You can see why it is such, because as we are saying, rainfall is only about 25 to 75 centimeter per year. Vegetation of grassland is dominated by grasses, legumes, very important, legumes, nitrogen fixation, and composites. Since tall trees and other thick vegetations are excluded from these communities, there is a free movement of air. So the wind carries the particles of sand or dust. These open habitats provide natural pastures for grazing animals, that is herbivores, which are excluded from predation by predators. See Prakriti ka niyam, which hide in thick vegetation and prey on them. In grasslands, stratification is reduced essentially to a single story, but within that level, species diversity may be as high as in deciduous forest, especially for the tall grass prairies. Only along the streams are trees to be found, but the gallery forest within the few meters of stream bank are characteristics of grasslands. The grasses comprising of grassland can be divided into two basic groups. Tall grasses, that is more than 1 meter high, which is found in the moist portion of the grassland, and the short grasses, which is less than 1 meter high, which is found in the dry region. For example, prior to its conversion to agriculture and urban development, the tall grass prairies towards east of North America was dominated by species of bluestone, forming dense covers and 122 centimeter to 183 centimeter tall. Westward, buffalo grass and other grasses but a few centimeters high dominated the landscape. So same is the case when you understand that is a change in topography is taking place or change in the landscape is taking place. Flowering herbs includes many kind of composites which are very common but much less important than grasses. Now, typical animals of grassland tend to be quite small, with the exception of very few large cursorial herbivore mammals such as bison and pronghorn in North America, the wild horse, ass, and saiga antelope of Eurasia, and zebra antelopes of the southern Africa. The large herbivores are nowhere near as diverse as they are in savanna. Savanna has got more diversity. Likewise, carnivores are relatively small, such as coyotes, weasels, badgers, foxes, ferrets, owls, and rattlesnakes. Rodents such as prairie dogs, rabbits, and ground squirrels are common. Most herbivores characteristically aggregate into herds or colonies. This aggregation provides some protection against the predators. The characteristic birds of grasslands are prairie chickens, meadow larks, rodents, and hawks. Further, the saltatorial motion is widespread not only in the mammals but in rabbits and kangaroo rats, but also in insects such as grasshoppers and crickets. Types of grassland, when we see, they tend to occupy 20% of the Earth's land surface, and there are three types. Tropical grassland, उष्ण कटिबंधीय घास के मैदान, 20 degree away from equator, and the rainfall varies from 40 to 100 40 to 100 centimeters. Tall grasses rise to a height of about 1.5 to 3.5 meters, and tropical grasslands of Africa includes ungulates, deers, antelopes, giraffes, and lions. Temperate grassland, शीतोष्ण घास के मैदान, found in Europe, Asia, and North America. Their rainfall varies from 25 to 75 centimeter per year. Alpine grasslands, they occur at higher altitudes. They are of meadow type, and many flowering herbs are also grown here. Desert biomes are formed in driest of environments. The temperature may range from very hot, as in hot deserts, to the very cold, as in cold deserts. Major hot deserts of the world are situated near tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, with a rainfall of less than 10 mm. The most important hot deserts of the world, as you know, Sahara, Arabia, Gobi Desert complex extended from Africa to Central Asia and contains highly irregular and very insignificant rainfall. Low humidity due to excessive evaporation. Fairly extensive deserts also occur in India, that is Sindh and Rajasthan desert, which is called Thar. South America, Chile, North America, and Australia. Cold deserts occur at high elevations where temperatures are low and rainfall is scanty, as the air loses all its moisture content as it ascends higher and higher. So cold deserts occur in Ladakh regions of Himalayas, Tibet, and Bolivia, Arctic, even Gobi you can think of. The hot and cold desert may also be distinguished by the differences in plant population, which are mostly succulent type, that is cactus, palowoody trees, Christot bush, and most deserts have sagebrush. This is very important to understand. Low abnormal precipitation coupled with soil and air temperature that are extremely high by day and drop abruptly by night, low humidity and high insolation are the major desiccating environmental factors to which desert vegetation and animals have adapted. We have discussed this in numerous discussions before this also. Desert plants tend to be shrubs, adapted to drought conditions, reduce size leaf, dropping of leaves in dry conditions, reducing water loss via evapotranspiration. Roots of most desert plants are remain well developed and occur in the top meter of soil to take maximum possible advantage of any rainfall. Further, the root hairs on many desert plants are ephemeral and drying back under drought conditions and thereby reducing potential water loss by osmosis. Already PT question, a standard PT question. Yet other species are short-lived annuals and they complete their life cycles during the short-lived moss period. In most hot deserts, there occur plants such as cacti, water-storing succulents such as acacias, euphorbias, cacti, and prickly pears, which are adapted by their protoplasmic colloids, which enable them accumulation of substantial water reserves, thereby as well as by reduced leaf surface, which obviates water loss via evapotranspiration. Think, जीने के लिए क्या नहीं करना पड़ता. Further, certain reptiles and certain insects are well adapted for survival in deserts because of their thick, impervious integuments. In fact, they excrete dry waste matter. And a few species of mammals have become secondarily adapted to desert by excreting very concentrated urine. I have discussed this in one of the previous lectures also. They avoid sun by remaining in their burrows during the day. Kangaroo rat and pocket mouse, they both are able to live without drinking water by extracting the moisture from the seeds and succulent cactus they eat. The camel and the desert bird, that is ostrich, they must have an occasional drink of water but can go for long periods of time using the water stored in their body. Most insects of deserts are herbivorous as a correlation you can say the number of small insectivorous lizards found in deserts are usually high. So fauna of Indian deserts, when Prakash Sir in 1974 he went on to study, they have recognized 4 habitats types in Indian desert based on landform, namely aquatic, sandy, rocky and rural habitats. Aquatic habitats of Indian deserts namely confined in the perennial lakes, inhabited by various species of fish such as labio or oxygaster or thor or puntius, and among amphibians of Indian desert are species of toad and 5 species of frogs, and you can say burrowing frog is also part of it. Apart from that, you have reptiles. There occurs 2 species of loricata, lizards, snakes, and so on. And the idea that Ophiomorus tri, tridac, tridactylus are predatory on desert locust inhabited in the localized areas of Thar Desert. Similarly, the avian fauna of Indian desert includes species such as painted partridge, very important for the prelims, and Francolinus pictus pallidus, grey partridge, we have discussed about that, common quail, and then you have black-breasted quail, and so forth. Therefore, bustard, great Indian bustard becomes very important during winter. Numerous aquatic birds become abundant in Indian deserts. We have already seen when we are doing the newspapers. Such birds are white-fronted goose, and you can say red-crested pochard, tufted duck, and among predominant predatory birds are 2 species of the vultures, namely, Gyps bengalensis and white vulture. So wetland biomes also very important to understand. Let's see that. And the wetland biomes may be defined as submerged or water saturated lands, natural, artificial, permanent or temporary with water that is static or flowing or fresh or brackish or saltish. When you see the management rules for this or the non-binding principles for the wetlands in India, you will be able to correlate. So they are characteristic transitional conditions between terrestrial land and the deep water bodies and are represented by swamps and marshes, that is palustrine lands, ferns, that is a tract of marshy land, pitlands, lagoons, shallow lakes, especially one near communicating with sea or river, lakes. For example, wetlands are also represented by paddy fields, fishery ponds, trapper cultivation ponds, riverine floodplains, and lacustrine, that is a lake marshy lands, marine backwaters, coastal wetlands. क्या नहीं बचाना बहुत जरूरी है. Think about the mangrove trees behind Bombay Bangalows. Think about Andaman Nicobar. Think about Sundarbans. Think about Odisha. Think about Gujarat, and you will find it. Think about Kharai Camel. So wetlands are often seasonal with free overlying water in the rainy season and marshy and often almost dry in summer. Similarly, wetlands support specialized vegetation and fauna. They are suitable niche for fish and other aquatic fauna as breeding and nursery ground for waterfowls as well as filters for sediment and pollutants. Floodplains and marshes are sometimes not easily accessible. They are serving as a secure place of many kinds of wildlife. This is very true. Sundarban is just one example in the coastal belt of Bay of Bengal, and they contain supra-optimal water. They are quite productive in tropics India, for example, because of associated bright sunshine and warm conditions. Their primary productivity becomes very high. Rice, which is the major crop of India, is best grown in wetlands. Biomass of wetlands is well distributed between the above ground foliage and underground rhizomatous and choromus parts. So typha, phragmites, they have very high production efficiency. Similarly, a prized dry fruit crop, that is ferox, most extensively grown in the wetlands of North Bihar. And wetlands are fast disappearing in many parts of the world because of dumping of waste, reclamation for agriculture, housing and forestation. It is very, very sad. The flowing or lotic wetlands are lotic, the key word that we have discussed number of times beforehand also, are most easily polluted by city sewage, industrial effluents, runoff pesticides and other agrochemical applied in the drain, upland crop fields. You will see these in the number of small shorts and videos that we have also produced. Let's see the mangroves in India before we wind up. That is halophytes growing in the muddy swamps of the estuaries of tropical and subtropical regions and the sea coast flooded by rivulets and tides from mangroves. Very important for the prelims. Therefore, salt tolerant forest ecosystem, tropical and subtropical intertidal regions, swamp forest land within and its water spread areas. In India, total area of mangrove is about 6,740 square kilometers. We kindly correlate with the 2024 forest data, which is nearly 7 part of the world's mangroves. Mangrove area Sundarban, Andaman and Nicobar Island constitute 80% of the Indian mangroves. Rest are scattered in the states of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Odisha, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Goa, Karnataka. So when you do India Yearbook, if you see the environment chapter, and you will get some more details from that, what is the Indian mangrove plan and what is the Indian mangrove program. So mangroves are dense forest of low trees, specially adapted to fixation, respiration, vivipary, migration, xeric characters, and plant and animals are having very diversity. Typical plant distribution of Indian mangroves include, there are different kinds like Avicennia officinalis, Avicennia alba, majus, and rotundifolia. Elaeophilus, Candila reedi, and so forth. Therefore, mangroves are highly productive ecosystems. Net primary production is usually high. Secondary productivity and decomposition activity of mangroves are also very high. Terrestrial consumers like snake, lizards, turtle, jackals, wild boars, hyena, tigers, and so on, they are there. In Bhitarkanika, sea coast of Odisha, adjacent to mangroves, exists the largest sea turtle, Rookery. Every year, more than 3 lakh to 5 lakh female turtles come to the sea beach Aribada in late January, December, and January, and again in March and April, and lay about 50 million eggs. Do check out. There are so many small videos over there. Go to the official websites and you will find it. The birds are also most colorful and conspicuous habitats of the mangroves. Mangroves of Florida, key support of the fauna, mostly insect and spider along the scorpions, isopods, and other arthropods, as the Curbs discussed in 1985. In recent years, the Indian mangroves have been subjected to reckless exploitation and biotic interference. That is very, very sad. So no organisms occurs in uniform numbers throughout the world. Specific organisms are restricted to specific communities and group of community that we have discussed. Three aspects of the distribution of an organism are generally recognized: geographic range, or the specific extent of land or the water area where the organism normally occurs; geological range, or the distribution of time past and present; and ecological distribution, or the major biotic communities, that is marine biome, freshwater biome, terrestrial biome, of which the organism is a member. Certain biologists have made certain distinctions between geographical distribution, that is horizontal or superficial distribution, and bathymetric distribution, that is vertical, and attitudinal distribution. Bathymetric distribution includes the following three realms, that is halobiotic, vertical distribution of organisms in marine sea habitat; limnobiotic, vertical distribution of organisms in freshwater habitat; and geobiotic, attitudinal distribution of organisms on land. All the living organisms in a given region are termed as biota of that region, and the animals of the given region are collectively called fauna, and the plants of a given region are called flora. I've been using this word flora and fauna, they are becoming biota together, and the distinction can be made between the following two terms: flora and vegetation. Flora refers to the botanical composition of a place. You can be asked in the interview, actually, not in the mains or prelims, the names of the different plant species, and while the vegetation means totality of forms, in which emphasis is not given on names of different plants but their life forms, numbers, and coverage. So we have discussed in a flow about so many different concepts which are so much important with respect to the terrestrial ecosystems. So you are supposed to make your notes, you are supposed to go for quick revisions, and also you are also supposed to note down some names of species and also make mind maps from this chapter, so that you get success not only efficiently but quickly, as soon as you are ready to conquer the examination and to serve the society. Thank you very much.